my esteemed viewers, and welcome to the National Economic Indaba 2025 show. My name is Nakiwe Simpungwe and I'm your host. Our guest this evening is no stranger to anybody really. He is the Member of Parliament for KAMFINSA constituency. His name is Honorable Christopher KANG'OMBE, and on Wednesday, March 26, 2025, he moved a motion in Parliament for government to incentivize startups owned by local Zambians, and Parliament voted in support of this motion. Today we are hosting him on the National Economic Indaba show to review this progressive motion and to find out what it means for the startups now that this motion has seen the light of day in Parliament. Honorable, you are welcome to the National Economic Indaba show.
Thank you very much, Nakiwe. I want to thank Millennium TV for the opportunity to come and shed more light on something that concerns our young people, something that concerns the elderly, basically those that want to start business for the first time. And I'm sure it will feed into the other key issues that we need to discuss around the business environment for our people. So I'm excited to be here today.
We are very excited to have you because we know that you have an extremely busy schedule, but as you say, you are always having an open door policy, and whenever we call upon you, especially as Millennium TV, you always avail yourself. So we are really grateful for that, Honorable.
I'm grateful.
Now, a simple definition, Honorable, of startups is that they are newly formed businesses. So they require registration, obviously, and with relevant authorities such as PACRA, ZRA, and also they need things like fire, health certification, etc., etc. But Honorable, you came very strongly and said that startups need to, they need to be exempted from a number of things. So I just want to us to start from the top. Are you suggesting, Honorable, that they should be exempted from registration and like PACRA paying the registration fee and so forth? And if that is what you are saying, a person like me and another person who is probably watching would ask then that, are they even ready to start a business if they need exemption from registration?
Well, first of all, you've defined what a startup is. Mm-hmm. So a startup is basically people, a group of people, individuals that wants to start business, and I'm saying for the first time so that there's a bit of emphasis. So if you're going to run a business for the first time, it means you are starting. So that is where the word startup comes from. So did I take to Parliament a proposal for people not to pay anything? No, that's not what I took to Parliament. First of all, the motivation for the motion, because you see, Parliament has got different ways in which you can change public policy, because what I was basically discussing there was public policy in the economic space. So you can ask government to actually bring a law, you go directly to cabinet and you ask the minister responsible, or you can actually say, look, this may not be on the agenda for government immediately, so let me go to Parliament to perform my role of oversight, because in Parliament we do three things, Nakiwe. We make laws, we provide oversight, and we approve the national budget. Three functions. If there's anything else happening in Parliament other than these three, then it's not within the role of an MP. So when I went to Parliament, I was basically asking myself, why is it that when people register a business, because to register a company at PACRA, maybe 1,000 would be enough, but then 1,000 is the fee. You now need to do what is called Articles of Association. So Articles of Association, Nakiwe, these are the accompanying documents. You have to go to a cafe, a printing shop, someone has to type the articles for you. You have to pay just to prepare the articles. Then you need to go to a bank and be able to say, look, I've paid so much for Articles of Association, I've paid so much to register the company at PACRA, now I need a bank account. So today banks are a bit more flexible because they will allow you to open a bank account on the understanding that money will move in. But the problem comes in with the statutory requirements. Now, what are statutory requirements? NAPSA will tell you, even if you don't have workers, you will do nil returns. At some point, you will need to pay for your workers when they start working. So we need you to register with NAPSA. So someone who is in a very distant place has to find their way into an APSA outlet, start submitting documents, printing. Already there are expenses. The money is not there, Nakiwe.
This is when you're just
it's not like you have the money and now you want to use part of your money. You are asking colleagues because all you have is an idea. At the center of a startup is innovation. At the center of a startup is this potential you've seen for growth, for business. You're telling yourself, I can run a salon, I can run a barber shop, and you see this potential. So, statutory obligations, NAPSA. Workers' compensation will tell you, chances are that there might be an accident, something will fall from the roof and it will hurt your worker. You have to compensate them. So you need to register with workers' compensation. Then when you find a workplace, a place where you open up a shop, the local authority will tell you, in case of a fire, it's asked to come and quench that fire. So you now have to pay for a fire certificate. I don't know how much it is right now. That is not enough because you have to work in a healthy environment. The assumption, Nakiwe, is that if you are going to work, whether it's a shopping mall or at a market, the conditions for business have to be very good in terms of the health of the environment. So you have to pay a health certificate. After a health certificate, you also have to pay what is called a business levy. So a business levy is permission to do business in a district. Nakiwe, I've just mentioned maybe 5 things so far, maybe 6. So now if you are a startup, out of those 3, you're looking already 20,000 is gone. And that is why I took to Parliament a motion to say, look, what can we do? Do we exempt them from paying all these statutory obligations? For me, it may sound to be too general, and maybe to everyone will say I'm also a startup. But I think it is possible to vet, to say, okay, PACRA will ask you to do it on your own because PACRA is, you now have a company, you now have a business name. But when it comes to these others, Nakiwe, my strong view is that for growth to happen, we can allow, even because first registration is first registration. You are starting for the first time. So as we discuss today, maybe we'll look at what is easy to implement, what can government say, this one will forgo, this one will not be able to forgo. So I think that we must find a way to look at what expenses hinder businesses from starting up. Yeah.
Wait, Stafanda, I heard you, speak about a comparison between the local Zambian startup and somebody who is coming from outside, a foreign person coming to set up a business here.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to understand these, things that you've outlined that a local person requires to, do when they are starting a business. Are the foreigners then exempted from doing the same?
No. Nakiwe, I wasn't going to go to Parliament if that was the intention. The intention, if you picked the wedding was local startups. So I'm not discussing startups in another country, first of all. Secondly, I wasn't discussing startups that are owned by foreigners. Because you can be a foreigner, come into Zambia, you're visiting your aunt, your relative, but you're a foreigner, and you come and decide to set up. You're a startup, but you're not Zambian.
Yeah.
So my motion was local startups owned by Zambians. And my understanding is that if you compare the cost of finance locally, and I'm saying the cost of finance, I'm asking Nakiwe, go and borrow money from a bank to set up a business. They'll ask you to pay 33%. And like I always say, 33% is not simple interest. A simple interest loan, you know how much you're borrowing and you know how much you pay. So you can easily plan. The problem in our financial sector right now, and I can't blame the banks, because obviously the banks have to deal with regulations also from Bank of Zambia, how much they can also, banks also borrow from Bank of Zambia. So if Bank of Zambia is lending money at 14%, it means banks also have to make a profit. If Bank of Zambia is saying you are required to retain 10%, 11% of your money, which is what is called the statutory reserve ratio, definitely banks will also have to charge a higher rate. So the cost of finance locally is very high. Now, if a startup comes from a foreign country, I know I've been looking at the numbers, the cost of borrowing money in Nakiwe from a foreign country, the cost is lower. So if someone comes in, and I just use China as an example, the rate for the loans from China for a startup in China who decides to come and set up here, their cost will be lower. So my motion was basically saying, can we do incentives for local people, for local Zambians, so that even when foreigners come into Zambia, because we still believe that FDI is key. I will not sit here to say Zambia does not need foreign direct investment. We need it at a very large scale. We need the millions of dollars so that the money can now be able to provide a certain level of growth within the economy. But for my motion, for the proposal I took to Parliament, and I'm grateful to all sides, both the ruling party and the opposition, they got the buy-in. I know the minister took time to also explain what government is doing, but from where I stand, the level of consideration is very low for local startups. And I hope that after that motion was passed, we are hopeful that there will be something that will come out.
So I would like to find out now, what laws, if any, and I'm sure there could be, existed, exist right now in trying to address these challenges, even before you took this motion to Parliament.
Well, I'll give an example. A foreign company that decides to set up in Zambia is required to have what is called an investment license. So what is an investment license? It's a commitment you are being authorized by the state to come and do business in Zambia, on the understanding that because you are bringing so much thousands of dollars, which is $250,000, you must get a few incentives. That's what is provided for in the Investment Act. So there's been an argument that even Zambians can get an investment license because the whole idea behind the license is to benefit certain incentives. Now, Nakiwe, the law says you should have $50,000 as a local person, as a Zambian, for you to qualify for certain investments. Now, I'm asking, $50,000 is close to 1.5 million kwacha. So if you have 1.5 million kwacha, then you can go to ZDA and say, I'm a Zambian, I want to start manufacturing A, B, C, D. Can you exempt me from paying certain taxes? We're not discussing $50,000 worth of business here. We're discussing people that are coming out of college. We're discussing people that are currently at a market in Zambia. They've seen the potential for sports attire, for instance. There's a young man who, I was looking for some football boots the other week. He was advertising online. And I asked him, I'm looking for size 4 football boots for my son. And then he says, no, actually, I have a shop in Kamwala. So after talking to him later on, I discovered that he can actually grow in terms of his business model. But because he can't access the right level of finance, the size of his shop is small. The sizes of boots he's stocking are fewer. He can't do other things because you can't just stock football boots. You also want futsal boots, rugby boots. You want other things that are defined sports equipment. The point I'm making is that startups are not $50,000 businesses. Of course, there are those that have the cash. You can be a startup and you have $50,000. You are privileged, someone can give you. My focus was on those that are struggling. My focus was on those that I know that even if you are 40, 50 years old, but you feel now you are ready to start, you need access to finance. So the proposal I took to Parliament, Nakiwe, is not for foreign-owned entities. It is for Zambians who are local startups that are having challenges with access to finance, that are looking for exemptions and all these other things. So which laws provide for some of these things? I think that the ZDA Investment Act is a bit more focused on those that have got a certain value of money. I would want to see the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise, and I know they have a policy, which is more general. There's a policy they've drafted, which talks about, we'll do this, but you see, from a practical point of view, more can be done. Sometimes a motion in Parliament is a reminder to government that you made this commitment. So there have been so many commitments that have been made, and that is why, for me, I decided, where else can I take this conversation? Do I come on TV? How many have got access to TV? Let me take it to the People's House. The People's House is Parliament. Everyone is able to pick the idea, and I'm happy to those who gave me thoughts. Because what I'm speaking now, Nakiwe, what I said in Parliament, it's not just the wisdom of Christopher KANG'OMBE. It is basically people calling me and telling me, Chris, you have this motion on Wednesday. I'm in the ICT space. I can't get a license for an ISP. You know, ISP is the license which allows you to provide internet ICT services in a certain particular place. There are people who want to go into rural areas where access to internet is very low. They've seen that opportunity. Someone called me and said, you know, Chris, I want to go and set up a business in a rural area to provide access to internet. I can't because the licenses are too many. Those are the startups we are discussing. And I think that we need to model what I may call incentives for them.
Great stuff. Now, you know, a few days ago, we had the privilege to host the CEEC DG here. And something that came out profoundly is that their interest is also to, you know, help startups and micro and small medium enterprises to grow. They are making it easier for them to, you know, get financing.
Yeah.
But also the issue now that comes at play is, quite all right, they want to help them and they are giving out these loans at very small interest rates, but it's becoming as if the person borrowing, you know, the startup, that person you're talking about, the salon owner, you know, those micro, they get these monies with no interest to pay back. They actually just go to get them with no intention
to
of paying back. What is your comment on this?
Well, first of all, I must confirm that we have a bad credit culture in Zambia. And I'm calling it a bad credit culture because even at friendship level, when a friend gives you 10,000, sometimes just to pay back, your friend has to explain his problems.
And yet it is
to say, boy, that money, you know, I was going home, then I found my aunt needs. Then is the person who lent you the money starts explaining his problems. Then now you who borrowed now has to find a way. So we have this bad credit culture. Look at how many people are owing banks money. Look at how many people are owing microfinance institutions money. Look at the recovery rate for CDF loans. You are aware that there are loans that are given under the Constituency Development Fund, where you borrow money to run a business, and then every month you have to be paying back. Like here, the recovery rate is very low. Is very poor. People are not paying back. But it could also be because the business model has not been allowed to grow. Because the whole essence is that when you borrow money, you are starting for the first time. There must be a period when they allow you to actually say, now you can grow, now you can start meeting obligations. That is where we started with statutory fees, ZRA, tax obligations, NAPSA, workers' compensation, all these. Those should be in the certain window forgone for a certain period. You simply say, we'll allow people to navigate around the challenges of a business. So do people borrow money so that they don't pay? Sometimes they face challenges. Others, it's just a bad credit culture. Others know that this is a loan I have to pay back. So do we put incentives or do people utilize the current provisions? The challenge has been certain models need to grow. I don't think that everyone is unwilling to pay. Sometimes businesses just fail. But others, those that know that the business is doing well, I seem to have a problem with the nature of empowerment funds in Zambia. I don't know if you are aware, Nakiwe, one of the reasons why the recovery rate is low, okay? If you compare commercial bank, microfinance, and government-funded empowerment funds, why don't people pay back government-funded empowerment funds? It's very simple. When the funds are being given out, the politician is in front. So the Minister of Sports, whether you like it or not, the Minister of Youth, Sport and Art is a politician. Whether you like it or not, Christopher KANG'OMBE is a politician. So if we're giving out empowerment funds, which are meant to help people step up their businesses, for as long as they see my face, for as long as they see this guy who they campaigned for as long as they see, this is the guy, I was sticking his posters for him to become Member of Parliament. I'm the one who used to manage his radio programs, ABCD. Are you telling me, Nakiwe, that such individuals will actually pay back those loans?
They'll feel entitled.
They'll feel entitled. So as we review empowerment funds, and I know CEEC for me, I'm one person who will never advocate for CEEC to be disbanded or changed. I think all we need to do is find a different way of ensuring that when we give out the loans, people don't look at Christopher KANG'OMBE has given me a loan. What people should see is that here's a loan that has been issued. I have to pay back. And we don't want to be asking people to provide collateral. The model should be revenue-based financing. What is revenue-based financing, Nakiwe? This is where you simply say, the model is good. We'll recover our money through the revenue. But if you say collateral, you're basically saying this business is likely to fail. You're already casting a doubt. So to answer your question, the CEC model is okay in terms of what it has to achieve. But I think that we need to do two things. Detach political faces when the money is being given out. We don't want to see the Honorable Minister for SME in front of those loans. I know he wants to be there so that people know that government is working. But that is actually the main disadvantage. People feel entitled.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now, in your presentation to Parliament, let's weigh in on that. What were your focus areas as to what, the policies must be, what policies must be implemented in favor of the local startups? I know that some, businesses take forever, like 2 years before it breaks ground and so forth and so on. Do you want, tax incentive, holidays for them for that long? How long?
I want a window for them.
But specify.
So I want a window for startups. I'm looking at how long it takes for an idea to germinate. Because a startup has got an idea. I want to run this business. They've never run that business before. They are a startup. That's why they're starting. So
it's a trial and error.
It's a trial and error. So models have to be tried. You're trying to say, there's so much traffic around this location. Let me have a booth. I'll be doing mobile money, MTN, Zamtel, and any other. And then I'll also be doing money transfer from banks. So you're trying, you're thinking this model is good. You are convinced there's too much traffic. Now go and try that. The value of money you're making may not be enough to pay back where you're borrowing. So my proposal is that can we do a model that allows, I don't know if they call it an incubation period. I don't know if it's called a sandbox period. I don't know what there's a term they use, where you are incubating, you are allowing the idea to grow. You are refining the permutations. You're telling yourself, this and this I should avoid. So what am I asking? I'm asking for a period. And for me, I want to be a bit moderate, because if I say 3 years, others will become too complacent. If I was in the position to decide, I would actually say for the first year of registration, the moment you get your PACRA certificate, because you have to pay for it, the rest for the first year you'll be exempted, because the first year is very key in Akiwe. It is when you actually want to push to the next level. So the first thing I was looking at was, can we exempt startups in their first year from paying these statutory obligations? And there are many. I just discussed statutory. I didn't discuss the NCC requirements, National Council for Construction. If you want to be doing drainages, if you want to be doing painting, NCC demands that you have certificates. Now, Kiwe, there are a lot of things to pay for. So the first thing I'm looking at is, can we exempt them from statutory obligations? In terms of taxation, it may fit in, because ZRA will say, no, some startups can make money in their first year. It's their growth period. It's their first year in business. Then also, I was also looking at how do we encourage a different model for finance. For instance, Nakiwe, I also took to Parliament a conversation around small-scale mining companies. I was asking, the biggest economic driver of our economy is actually mining. How is it possible that people get mining licenses? You know you need a license to do mining. How is it possible that people get a license, Nakiwe, and unfortunately, they don't have the money to actually now buy the equipment to start doing mining? Because mining, you need certain pieces of equipment. So my proposal around them, since they are also startups, is that ZCCMIH or government can actually buy equipment instead of giving them cash. You basically say, look, you need a drilling machine, you need a welding machine, you need ABCD. We'll buy these things for you because we've given you a license. What people end up doing, Nakiwe, is that they end up selling the license. You have a mining license, you can't do the mining. And then a foreigner comes with so many thousands of dollars, they'll tell you, look, let me buy off the mine. So I'm looking at sector-based incentives. Each sector should tell us what the demands are. Those in the agri-tech business, those in the agriculture business, those in the fintech business. There are experts out there. And Akiwa, if I was to show you the number of messages, the suggestions people are giving me, I feel like we've not tapped into the knowledge that the actual startups have. I think the modeling should be around each sector should have its own specific incentives.
Yeah. Interesting. So now, of interest to you, also you moved this motion that the issue of late payments, I think.
Yeah.
You moved it? Did it also pass?
Well, I was shocked that just when I was about to start debating the impact of late payments to suppliers and contractors, members of parliament, majority of them from our colleagues in the ruling party, walked out. Of course, we had a few of our own members of parliament who were not present. Okay. So both sides were culprits because I was actually expecting that even if people would not contribute to the debate because the time is limited, you only have 30 minutes and the mover of the motion who's going to debate only has 10 minutes. So I was expecting that we would have not everyone debating, but at least the quorum, because without the quorum, without the 56 MPs present, we can't transact business. So the business of the House, after we finished everything, there was a separate item. MP for KAMFINSA has a motion of adjournment to discuss the issue of late payment to suppliers and contractors. Here's my thought, Nakiwa. For government is also a culprit, and it has been a culprit for many years. You supply goods and services, whether it's at a hospital, whether it's at ZAF, Zambia Army, or any defense wing. Not everyone gets paid on time. People have to keep going there, asking, how far are you with that payment? You go to RDA, you've done a drainage. Just to be paid by NRIFA, it takes long. Now, for a startup who has borrowed money and has got this business opportunity, whether it's the mines or government, the challenge comes in because they've borrowed money. They've supplied the goods, and the goods are supplied on the understanding that within 30 days, Nakiwe, they'll get paid. So whoever is watching this program right now is wondering, what is the MP trying to say? The MP is trying to acknowledge that startups can grow in any sector. They need to be supported. But even when we support them and we give them business, can we pay them on time? Mine suppliers and contractors, for instance, in the mining sector, are not paid within the 30 days, and they borrow money. Nakiwe, people have lost houses. People have had to go to the police simply because the mining company did not pay them on time for goods they supplied. And that is why I would propose, it's a proposal, when we come back in the month of May, I'm coming back with a proposal, and I've already written a proposal. I am proposing a private member's bill. This is a law. I'm not talking about a motion. This time I'm coming with a law. The proposal under the law is that if you fail to pay a supplier or a service provider within the 30 days, Nakiwe, the demand now will be that interest should start accruing. So if a mine, if FQM was supposed to pay you 100,000 kwacha within 30 days and they don't pay you, interest should start accruing. For every week that they don't pay you, interest should accrue, so that eventually they pay you a figure, the amount on the purchase order, and the interest that has accrued. The same should apply to Mopani, the same should apply to KCM, the same should apply to NFCA, these mining companies owned by our colleagues who have invested so many millions of dollars in the shafts in Chambishi. But why can't they pay suppliers and contractors on time? I don't think that there's any mine where there's no investment. What we're basically saying is that a law is coming. I know it will be resisted. There will be a lot of resistance from the mining companies. They will not support the idea that if you delay to pay a supplier, interest starts accruing. But I want to assure the people that are watching that I have had an opportunity to work in the mines. I know how suppliers struggle just to make sure that they service the order. They bring goods to the mine. They've borrowed where they've gotten money just to come and supply goods. Now, they've given you the goods. Can you pay them within the 30 days? Why should suppliers sort out the cash flow problem of mining companies? Because without cash, you can't get that equipment. And that is why, for me, I'm saying, look, from an economic growth point of view, governments have always expected that SMEs will contribute. So how do they contribute if they can't be paid on time? So I want to assure our colleagues that there's a law coming. I don't know if it will be supported by the majority, but the record I'm placing now is that there's a law coming. I'm proposing a law.
Yeah,
Interest payments, Nakio.
And I feel you on that one, because you know, as you're talking about startups, and it's very obvious that if they borrow money and then they supply but they are not paid on time, that interest starts going up. So exactly. It's obvious that what you're trying to say is that if they have to pay, you know, those interests, so you might as well cushion them as a mine,
exactly,
you know, so that it doesn't choke them, because by the end of the day, that's what will kill the startup.
Exactly.
Before it even
and there will be no growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, just, you know, out of interest, I know you are here as a policymaker, but how can startups manage their finances, you know, effectively, so that they continue to float even as they push for better incentives, as you push for better incentives for them?
Well, one of the incentives actually that has to be couched is the question you are raising. Because a startup has had no exposure to money. They've never handled resources, so there's an assumption that they'll do well. Now, if people who have been given finance are not able to pay on time, are not able to pay back on time, it could be because they can't manage their cash flow, they can't manage money, basic financial management, basic accounting. You enter the sales, you enter your expenses. Others can't differentiate. When Kana is playing over the weekend, from the same money for business, they buy a ticket. From the same money from business, they decide to get part of the money for something that they may be classified as entertainment expenses. So you have to tell people, look, separate your monies. Money for business, you've borrowed money. MP for KAMFINSA was talking about incentives for you, but you should also use your money correctly. So my understanding is that one of the incentives we should give to government, because an incentive is an enabler. It's enabling you to do better. It's enabling you to be able to do your business well. So one of the enabling things we must be able to provide is providing the skills, the basic skills to run a business. Basic book entries, basic monitoring of your account, basic things. The way people have seen people at markets in Kitu at Sokone Market who have been growing from a small store. They decide to open a slightly bigger store. Next thing, they are opening a bigger hardware. You ask them, how long have you been doing this business? They tell you, that time I was mayor, they will tell me, Mayor, I've been doing this for 15 years. For me to now reach this stage, I tried in 2013, I failed. The reason I failed because I didn't know that when you do this, this has to happen. So one of the things government can do through the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises is to have strategic focus around training, where you simply announce, today we are in KAMFINSA constituency. CDF money will be given next year. Let's not wait for the money to come and then we start doing the training, because that's what happens now. What happens now, Nakio, is that when young people are given money under CDF, they are given money, the money is in their account. Then they are called to undertake a bit of training. It's not all the groups, but majority are given that opportunity. They've already been given the money. They might have actually shared the money already. So the point I'm making is that the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise can actually say, Lusaka, we will be having, how many constituencies are in Lusaka? We have 7. How many wards do we have in Lusaka? 33. Can we have ward training sessions? You employ officers to do the training aggressively. You tell yourself, India has survived because of SMEs. China has got the big industries, but they've got the SMEs. All these countries that are doing well, Nakiwe, actually have these deliberate efforts. So for me, what can we do for those that have never touched money? We should be able to train them before they actually touch the money for finance. Yeah.
Great stuff. If you're just joining us, you are watching the National Economic Indaba show, and we are hosting KAMFINSA Member of Parliament, Honorable Christopher KANG'OMBE. Those that are joining us via our social media platforms on Millennium TV and the National Economic Indaba page on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. As we are winding up the program, Honorable KANG'OMBE, Could you just, give your last words to the nation pertaining the motion that you passed, and also just your last words to the SMEs and the startups that you are extremely, it's obvious, passionate about?
Very passionate about startups, very passionate about SMEs. I've had the opportunity to travel in different places, and I see how people survive, okay? I've had the opportunity to work with young people, like I keep saying, local level. You know, when you are a counselor, you have someone coming to you telling you, counselor, I want to try out this, okay? There was a time I was given an opportunity to be mayor of Kitwe. People would come from Chimwemwe, Ndeke, Chamboli. Every Wednesday I would sit down with them, and I can only do as much. I can only give them hope. But then they are telling me, we are struggling because we have to pay for this, we have to pay for this. So now I'm a member of parliament, and I'm asking myself, the time I have is 5 years, okay? What do I do for those voices, for those who have been giving me these ideas, these thoughts? The thoughts are that young people, those in their adulthood age, those that are in their 50s, there's always a point when you want to start a business. But the environment has to enable you. And that is why the motion on startups was targeted at local startups. I am confident that since Parliament agreed, what we are expecting now is that there must be a report within 30 days. The requirement of the law is that when a motion is accepted in Parliament, 30 days a report has to be caused by the ministry. So Honorable Chipoka from Commerce and Honorable Mbanga from SME should do a report to say, based on what was agreed, so far these are the things we've done. You don't want to give a general perspective to the issue. We want specific issues. Mining, this is what we've done. And it's not a competition. We're not competing. We're saying these are solutions that can work. So I'm grateful that I was given an opportunity in Parliament to explain what needs to be done. And I'm also grateful to Millennium TV that I've been given this opportunity to clarify. Someone called me and said, which incentives? You're too generic. I said, yes, I'm generic, but now we have to go into the meat. Sector by sector, agri-tech. Now there are platforms for trading in agro products. In Kenya, people don't go to the market to sell goods. Yes, there are those who want to walk in and buy vegetables at a market. But now there are platforms in Kenya where you can have buyers and sellers, those that have grown vegetables. If you've grown oranges, you simply say, I've got 10 kg of mangoes. Someone there will be saying, oh, actually, 10, I'm looking for 5. So the trading can happen around technology in the agriculture space. Who is better placed to provide those platforms? It's the startups. And that is why today I thought I could actually come and add this voice, and I'm grateful that I was given an opportunity to explain the motion and what needs to be done for the growth of our SMEs.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Grateful that you took time and just came to clarify and explain a number of things, and I'm sure that our viewers have been able to get the correct picture of the issue at hand. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm extremely grateful and hope that there will be another opportunity to interact with our viewers.
Anytime.
Thank you.
There you have it, our viewers. On the program, we hosted KAMFINSA Member of Parliament, Honorable Christopher KANG'OMBE, on the National Economic Indaba show, and until Friday when we host another exciting guest. My name is Nakiwe Simple, on behalf of the studio crew, saying good night.